All right, my friends, welcome back to another V-Rising video. We just recently got a dev update number 27, Whispers of Darkness, and I wanted to go over this really quickly. And this is for V-Rising. This is going to be a really chill video, kind of just going over the update itself. This is talking about 1.1, going to be really interesting here. So I've read through this already, just to get an idea about what exactly they were talking about. So really quickly here, they're just basically saying hello here, looking at, it's not, everything is, the painting is never complete. Basically just the game, we have a lot, we can still add things even though 1.0 has happened. So taking control, this is right away the most interesting thing. Funnily enough, we just talked about something very similar to this. Really quickly, let's read through this. It says, overall, we've received plenty of positive feedback on the progression from start to finish. While there are always minor issues we could spend endless hours refining, we'd rather focus on the results of something we first experimented with in the Secrets of Gloomrot patch and expanded upon in the 1.0 update. That is to say, random drops. So, funnily enough, I wish I had an image of this. But they recently, about a month or so ago, Stunlock was actually asking for feedback on what they thought the game needed very badly. And one of those things that I mentioned in the original thread, or in that thread, was the need for a reduction or some kind of control for randomness. And in my most recent video, if you watched it, I also talked about just how bad the randomness is at the end of the game. So here it says, we initially introduced random drops, and the idea was to add an extra layer of excitement to loot you'd earn from slaying mobs. And I actually have no problem with this. Mixing up what you could get from enemies and chests was meant to inject more variety into each playthrough, creating unique moments from player to player and save to save. This is something that players were asking for after having a little taste with book formulas and the unique scythe recipe that Krieg, aka the Undead General, who wasn't a V-Blood at the time, had a chance of dropping. So yes, this was the first and only RNG that the game had in terms of like random loot drops you could get back in the day. Before the Secrets of Gloomrot, the General Soul Reaper legendary weapon. This thing was totally cracked. And like I said, it was the only weapon back in the day that existed like this. It was basically just a merciless Iron Reaper. That was totally insane. Look at that, +6 spell power. Like, that's so much spell power. It's crazy. This thing was roughly equivalent, like in between Sanguine and Dark Silver. It was about as strong as a Sanguine weapon. It kind of just depended. And in PvP, this thing was just insane for spellcasting. So definitely amazing. But that was obviously they removed that from the game whenever Gloomrot patch happened. And then they added, legendary weapons and spell jewels with that here. Essentially, they talked about like how that was changed and expanded upon in the 1.0 patch, which we know, purple weapons and whatnot. But the issue, basically, they talked about just like, hey, look, brings us back to something we touched on earlier in the blog. How do you improve your Rising for everyone? Some players have suggested removing randomness entirely. Who was that? Me. Actually, in my feedback post, I also mentioned that too. What I said was, you have to choose to either remove randomness entirely, just get rid of stat ranges entirely, or have a way to pick and choose what stats and things that you want and put it on a weapon. This was a suggestion I made back then. And, it was something that we mentioned in the most recent video as well. It says it creates new possibilities that push you to adaptively strategize your next move. So I actually agree with this concept of having new abilities and having like every run you have like different weapons and stuff that you get. But here they said the solution might lie in adding a new feature we tentatively call, or are tentatively calling, the Fusion Forge. The idea of the Fusion Forge is to give you a crafting station later on in your playthrough that allows you to combine different items together and take the best parts of each item, or of each of them. For us, this is the best of both worlds between getting to pick what you want and still having the ability to get the ability or stat in the first place. You won't have to land the weapon with all the exact perfect stats, or the jewel with exactly the spell modifications you need. All you need is a few jewels with the mods you're after, allowing you to fuse them into the ultimate jewel of your dreams. So here's a little image of what this looks like right now. So Fusion Forge, here's 2 axes. You can see here, Weaken, Blood. This one has movement speed. This one has spell power. This one has better attack speed stats. This one has better damage reduction stats. And so they said, all right, we're going to pick Weaken because I want a Weaken axe. But I also want spell power, and then I want attack speed, damage reduction. Then you can fuse them together and make a single item. They also are saying that you can do the same thing with jewels. This is actually pretty much exactly the suggestion I made in one of my feedback posts, or in my feedback post, was this exact thing. And I have to say, honestly, this to me is they're right that this is the best of both worlds. I actually don't have a problem with RNG specifically. Like it makes sense. So whenever I said that it would be nice to just totally remove the stat variance, that was more so like you have to pick one or the other, right? You either have a situation or a thing like here, a function like this with the Fusion Forge, where you can just like take 2 items and pick the best of both items and like fuse them together and make your perfect item, or you just remove the stat variance and make it so like if whatever RNG we're rolling, it's less random because the stat variance is no longer there. So this is actually going to be pretty cool, because now what this is to me is it actually means that every purple weapon you get is hype, is like important in some way. So every single item you get is going to be more and more valuable. So if you're trying to get like a perfect static spear that has like bonus spell power and then like crit chance and bonus crit damage, now as you roll your static spears, you know, your spears in general, it actually means everything matters, right? So it's not just like, oh man, I really just want a static spear, and then you like ignore the stats, or you say, I really just want, you know what, I'm just going to go for the 1,000 Storms legendary spear. Instead of that, what this means is every single weapon. So I could see you want to go for a perfect static spear where it has like the max roll spell power, the max roll crit chance and crit damage. So that technically in terms of damage would be better technically than the 1,000 Storms, because you do more crit damage and your spell power is higher, meaning that the spell bonus damage from static is higher. So what's cool about that is you could basically just farm shards and like go specifically for that thing and be like, now I can actually craft or I can attain the perfect thing that I wanted. So, and reasonably. So that is definitely a better option than the current system we have now. I still think that the amount of greater Stygian shards that we have to farm is just absurd. I also think that the randomness, if you want a specific artifact weapon, you know, one of the oranges, can be a little brutal at times. Sometimes, like you've seen some of my runs where I literally roll, like, sometimes I get lucky and I get, you know, 2-3 artifacts back to back. In fact, in one of my most recent runs that I did, I was rolling for Morningstar, and I wanted Morningstar, and then I also wanted a Weaken Whip. So I wanted both of those things, and I rolled through. I only had 4,500. I rolled 3 times and got 2 Morningstars. So you can have super crazy luck like that, but you can also just be totally just screwed by it. So anyway, this is going to be a really interesting addition. I think there's other little fine-tuning things that they can do, but I actually am really excited about this because I totally agree that the RNG and like customizing and picking a different weapon for your run is good. But I also think that whenever you get to like absolute peak endgame where you've cleared all of the bosses, you have everything unlocked, we just want to get a build. You know, like if you want to use your peak build, your preferred build, well, then you should be able to get that in a reasonable amount of time without having to farm for, you know, 50 hours. And this, to me, will also incentivize people. They won't be as nervous to start a new run, if that makes sense, because they're like, I had to put a lot of time into what I have here, but I also know that I'm going to be able to just like when I farm stuff, I'm going to be able to reasonably attain the weapon that I want, right? Okay. So here, very rough placeholder UI, building your perfect axes, pretty cool. So here also some more feedback people gave. This is a great feedback. You know, a lot of times my mind kind of just sticks on like the stats and the nerdy side, but thank you PvE players for suggesting these types of things here. They said, look, we have legendary artifact weapons. These named weapons are so cool, but they just look like a regular mace. Go ahead and give me something that actually looks the part. Great idea. I prefer this one. I really like this clean build of this axe. I mean, these all look really cool. Me personally, number 3 here. I'm enjoying this. Just like that super clean with a little blue glow. Pretty cool. Here's the Endbringers looking sick. I mean, those are perfect for me. And then the Wings of the Fallen Blood Slashers. Pretty cool right there. Those look pretty nice as well. All right, next part here, risk-free murder. So I'm not going to read this entire thing. I'm just going to summarize what they're saying. So essentially, people have asked, even on PvE servers, there's no way to duel or do any kind of PvP on PvE servers. And this is a function that's going to let PvE players who have been interested in trying PvP experience PvP without the risk of losing everything, right? If you're a PvP player, this right here, you're probably laughing at this like, okay, who cares about this? Like, why does this even matter? Who cares? You know, oh wow, dying repeatedly in PvP can suck. Oh yeah, tell me about it. I've been doing it for years. You know, like if for you, you may not see this as a big deal. Let me tell you why I think this is such a good decision by Stunlock. So right now, the game is divided into 2, maybe even 3 main groups. You have the PvP players who play the game because they love the PvP. You have PvE players who play the game because they really love the PvE. Then you have solo players who just play the game solo because they just don't want anything to do with any other person. They just want to play at their own pace. They don't want anything to do with other people. So what this change does, while if you're a PvP player who's been playing PvP for a while, you see this as like kind of a joke. This is a good thing for you guys, all right? For us PvP players, this is a great change. And what the reason why is because this bridges the gap between PvE players and PvP players. Right now, there's a huge disconnect between the two sides. Some PvP players will be sitting there saying, we need all these changes in the game, right? We need balance on these spells. We need buffs on these spells. We need this change here for raiding. We need that change there for RNG, etc. And then the PvE side players are like, I don't care about any of that. I want more. I want, NPC raids on my castle. I want more decorations, whatever it may be, right? And we are totally at a disconnect. What this is going to do is going to allow, first, it's going to give PvE players who were really had a lot of apprehension about trying the PvP, it's going to give them a safe area to do that. I know, like, a lot of people are going to hear that and be like, oh, wah. It's true. That's what's going to happen. It's going to basically, like, people who may have never wanted to even try PvP are going to be like, hey, well, it's in the game. It's risk-free. Let's give it a try. And there's a chance those players are going to be like, actually, this is really cool. I never would have tried this otherwise. So cool. Let me go over to a PvP server now. So this can only benefit PvP servers, in my mind. Second, it also, like I said, it bridges the gap so that those players are going to see what we're talking about when we say, hey, this thing's unbalanced or this thing needs to change this way. These people are going to be able to experience that and be like, you know what? You guys are right. Like, this needs to change. So this, to me, is a good thing. And that brings us next to arenas. I was not expecting this. This is potentially the best thing they've ever added to the game. Like, by far. This is so good. So it looks like you're actually going to be able to create an arena in your castle. What the limitations are on that, I'm not 100% sure yet. However, you can see here, they're like creating things. Okay, here's zone. You can make like a red team zone, the blue team zone. A lot of this stuff, the V-Arena people are probably super excited about this because this is just going to give them more tools. It's almost like giving mod support, kind of, for just that specific thing, for PvP arenas. It's really, really nice. Top of that, here's some assets here. Here's a 2v2v2v2 game mode, which is kind of a cool idea, where you have like 4 different areas and you can just fight each other. Super cool. Gonna be interesting to see what kind of assets they add for this to make more, have more options and more gameplay. Then here's another, 4v4 arena flag. I'm assuming this is like, might be capture the flag. I'm not totally sure. Really cool idea there. And then here is the Battle Right arena. If you ever played Battle Right back in the day, whenever the match went on for a little bit too long, the area would slowly collapse, and almost like the fog of war in a battle, in a BR, closing in. And this is like, essentially looks like that to me, where it's like, hey, here's a little limit. You can fight in this area, and if you go too far outside of it, you're gonna, vision range is gonna collapse, and you're gonna be taking damage over time, like you're in Dracula's Bloodstorm on brutal mode. So, like it says here, placeholders, we get it. I mean, thanks for showing us this, guys. This is really awesome. I'm actually so glad they added this. The potential here is huge, especially for, like I said, for like stuff like the arena, other customized servers. But I'm also really interested in how we're going to be able to add these as like mods into other servers. Like what kinds of things can you do with a blood circle like this, Crazy boss fights. Anyway. And then finally, thank goodness, a new land awaits. I mean, come on, guys. A new land awaits just when we thought they were done. Just when we thought they were done, they pull us back in. So let me show you something here. This is actually was on my things that I was wanting list. I have a list of things I wanted for the game, and I had like a list of like likely unattainable wants, like a map editor and mod support, crossplay, etc., and my attainable wants, which were specifically expanding zones and having more areas. And I mentioned, I was going to actually mention this in the video. I might still make this video. How like in this corner over here, all along this side right here, and all up in these areas, there's just so much space. I was curious why they hadn't used it. Well, it looks like they're going to use it here. And I'm actually going to zoom in on this because I'm already showing, I already noticed some very interesting stuff here. So, Silverlight, Dunley, Gloomrot North right here. Here's the new zone here. Really quickly, here's the aesthetic of the people. Looks like a little like almost like a desert necromancer, by the way. It looks really cool. We'll get to that in just a second. But if you look right here, so this is right here, right? So here's Silverlight in this area. So right here already we see a path connecting Gloomrot North in this part of Dunley right here. Really, really like that. First, okay, that's still there. Okay. I really like this concept. I actually really like this area here, but it is pretty cut off from the rest of the map, which is kind of an advantage to those, anyone who's building here. But to me, it's kind of cool having a little bit of like quick little pass through right here. Then you have this area here. So here would be the bridge. Oops, the bridge right here. See that right here, or right here anyway. And then here is another thing right here connecting these two spots over to this area. So that's one way to enter. I can't really see over here if there's any kind of entrance on this side. I would imagine there may be, not totally sure. But then you look right here. Right here. Let's see if I can zoom in even further. Enhance. It's enhanced. So here's Silvermine. Here is this part. So look at this. Silvermine, right? And then this base location here, the Old Faithful location over here in Northwest Silverlight. Right there. But look at this. They expanded this out a little bit and made another area here. First, really hard to tell, but it's another base plot. Please, please. I don't think it is, but please. Another base plot, please. But yeah, regardless, right here, you would run through this area for Silverlight, run through this right here. Here's, Brighthaven and this whole stuff right down here. Here's this base location, and then you can just run up like this, right? Right here. Right there, right in this area. So, super interesting already. Really excited about that. I love theory crafting this. Listen, I love theory crafting this kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to see what they do there. I haven't looked at everything else, but it looks like, what is this? It's normal. Oh, that's just this. That's just this. Okay, okay, okay. They almost got me. They almost got me. Okay. Anyway, okay, let's go back to this update. So here is some concept for a new faction. This actually looks super cool, like an Egyptian, like necromancy kind of thing. This right here makes me think of a leaked weapon that was in the game in the Gloomrot patch called the Necromancy Dagger. dagger used. It had like its E and Q were like spells, kind of. I don't know if that's what it's going to be, but that kind of makes me think about that. This also looks really cool. Looks a lot like Darkest Dungeon artwork. So Darkest Dungeon crossover when? But anyway. Um, so yeah, that won't be all. Obviously, that's all they have to share for us with us right now. And they got into like the Slashers of Vardoran creative contest. Oh, and finally, guys, listen. November 16th is when this ends. Haunted Knights Castle Pack. If you don't have this, go to the Steam page or on the PlayStation 5 store. Get this for free. It is a free pack. Really, really good. People have asked me a billion times, where did you get your coffin? Where did you get your chest? This is where you get it. It is free. Go get it now. But anyway, well, thanks, guys. That is going to be it. Hope you enjoyed it. Super hyped about this. Let me know what you think about these updates in the comments. Obviously, there's a lot to like, a lot to be complained about, whatever you want to say. But go ahead and let me know. That's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you in the next one.